Just a minute past 10 p.m. Karibu sana. This is the Daily Report. I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyoringita. Tonight, we dive into the significance of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's new political outfit, which he will be unveiling tomorrow, Thursday, which again will be showcasing it to you live tomorrow. But before that, a whole curtain raiser for this particular unveiling, just to understand how significant it is for a dress rehearsal for the 2027 elections and the people involved in this particular bit. And joining us tonight live for this particular conversation is former NC Fomba. He is a chairman, National Alternative Leadership Forum. He is also a governance analyst. Going to also be joined by Kennedy Ondiek. He's a chair, Progress Plus Alliance. Key to note also, he was in the ruling party formerly on the whole South Nyanza region coordinator. So former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was his party leader and the deputy party leader in that particular party. So just understanding from these two gentlemen what the significance of this unveiling means. Key to note also, this political party is called Democracy for Citizens Party. Its colors include green, brown, and black. And the logo symbol is a hand touching the ear. We're going to also be getting more of these details tomorrow, and the whole intrigues of this particular bit. With me here right now is Fomba, NC Fomba. What do you expect from this particular unveiling, the kind of, pomp and color? This man, Rigathi Gachagua, has spoken a lot when it comes to, a new kind of a start after his impeachment. What do you expect tomorrow?
What I expect is that for Rigathi Gachagua, he's trying to reinvent himself. So there's nothing much as opposed to trying to get back to the president, because they are fighting after having been thrown out of government. So there's nothing much. He has defined this as a renewal or an opportunity for him to reinvent himself politically, but it has nothing to do with the Kenyans. If there is anything that you can never associate Gachagua with, is something called national or Kenyans, because we saw him when he wielded power. We know how much he behaved, or the kind of things that he was associated with. He kept on talking about Wamunyoro, his village, all the time.
So according to you, there's nothing for Kenyans. But then, just to the name of the party, Democracy for Citizens Party, and I want us to leave it to that even before I can allow Mr. Ondiek to come in. The name of the party itself, doesn't it?
The name is theoretical.
For Kenyans, yes.
The name is theoretical because there's no association between democracy and Gachagua.
Okay.
We have seen how he has operated when he was in power. He never had room for democracy at all. When Azimio people are demonstrating on the streets, remember, in fact, the best assignment that Gachagua ever did or appeared in office for the first time and showed all the cameras that he was working was when he was working on the Azimio demonstrations to suppress democracy.
So what's your philosophy on a leader being democratic?
A democratic leader is someone who is open to new ideas, who is able to work with people, who can listen to others and also give ideas to others. But so far, if you look at Gachagua, he's unable to work with anyone above him or even below him. Okay. Look at his allies. You start with his disagreement or fallout with the president. Look at there's so many associates, the former members of parliament, the current leaders, even in Mount Kenya region. And then even look at somebody like Ngujiri Wambuku, who was working with him. Right now they are falling out because of that high-handedness. In fact, the version of Rigathi Gachagua that we are seeing is the softest, the most polite. But we really remember the image he had when he was the second in command. And that's someone who should never be allowed anywhere near leadership.
Right.
And every time he does something, it just confirms that he was a very wrong person for that position.
Right.
Look at the symbol. Look at the party symbol. While the rest of the world is looking at the sustainable development goals. For example, you are looking at the SDGs. Governance is about the programs, and it involves all senses. So the myopic nature of this arrangement is seen through the kind of logo they have. They have simplified it. The simplicity is a reflection of their lack of ideas.
Right.
It is melodramatic.
And even for the benefit of the viewer watching right now, as you can see, the graphics there on your screen, Gachagua's new home and the party name, as we had told you, Democracy for Citizens Party, which was formed on the 3rd of February this particular year. The party symbol is an ear and a hand. I can also tell you who the other leaders are going to be, if you can have the next graphics of that as well. The party officials, party leader himself, Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy party leader, Cleophas Malala, Chairman Seki Lenku, Secretary General John Methu, who is a senator. We'll be getting into the possibilities of, John Methu himself actually, getting out of the party that he is, and a new, election being, done in the slot that he is right now. But then, what are your thoughts on the team that he has, looked for?
First of all,
and gathered together as leaders.
First of all, I was talking about his logo.
Yes.
And talking about the ear, listening. A complete human being has got 5 senses. So the simplistic way of looking at things has made him look at one sense. What about the 4 other senses that are supposed to help you run an institution? Now, you go back to the officials, you see somebody like Malala has been his ally. Even those guys who were in UDA complained that they were always conspiring together to do 1 or 2 things. The reality of it is that all these guys, we saw them, how they behaved when they wielded power. So right now, they have just made a combination or a team of losers working together, trying to console each other. So that's why they have to work as a team. With Malala, with the perception that maybe there's some influence in Western, but the reality is that as Wamunyoro has defined himself, he's a village leader. Can you imagine? We have had so many political parties in this country. Have you ever seen like ODM being referred to as a Bondo party? Or UDA being called Sugoi party, for example? Or is it Kalonzo? Kalonzo's wiper. Has it ever been referred to as the Kuru party? So this is a false start right from the beginning.
Nairobi MP and his close ally for Rigathi Gachagua, as James Gakuya says, UDA is not a village party, it is a national party. Are you disagreeing with that?
I disagree with that. Honorable James Gakuya himself is a gentleman. He's a man who is level-headed. But I think he's working with the wrong team. And whatever he's saying is just trying to imagine that Gachagua still may wield power, which is not possible. The kind of situation Gachagua has been having is some kind of sympathy since he was impeached. And this sympathy has been eroding each and every day. The moment he's going to take up this responsibility, calling himself a party leader, that's when he's going to realize that managing people, organizing structures, and running a political party is no childish game. So Honorable Gakuya might be doing that for convenience, but with the assumption that Gachagua might want to be able to take Mount Kenya behind him, which is a pipe dream.
Okay.
For me, I look at Gachagua as someone who is taking advantage of the position he just occupied. And for his position to have made him influential, it took the power of President Ruto nominating him as the deputy president. Without that, he will still be a novice because he does not have experience in running high-profile offices. He has no experience in political leadership. He has no experience in serving the country. So there are so many people in Mount Kenya. If we have to talk about Mount Kenya before we get even to the rest of the country, there are so many people who have more experience than him, and they have not talked. So the moment they'll talk, they'll take time to look at whatever experiment is trying. Then by the time we get to 2027, the ballgame will be totally different. It will not be what we are looking at right now.
Right.
Right now, the agenda they are pushing is that it's their fight with the president. It has nothing to do with the agenda of Kenyans. But once we get to the elections, it will be about the agenda of Kenyans. And they'll be having nothing to present or to offer other than their sour grapes.
Right. Just a reminder as well, some of the party's governing council includes these particular names. One, Thomas Retemo. We do have Odo Iyembo, Mabli Owino, Hussein Athman, Laura Njeri, Abdifatar Abdullahi, Joy Gatugi, Jeremiah Mungeni, Joel Sangi, John Maranga, Miriam Mariki, as well as Brenda Omosira, I should say. This is some of these particular leaders who are, and some of these notable names who are in the party's governing council. And just taking a look at the kind of clamor. So even before, even now, as we prepare to bring in Ndeki, the kind of clamor on the leaders that he's going to be looking out for. Well, you describe him as a gentleman who cannot work with other people, but then the kind of how he has actually handpicked and even joined into the opposition. How do you expect him now to, and how do you envision him to work with this list of people that we are talking about?
About his associations with other leaders, he's just being opportunistic. But now, the list he has presented in the name of the National Executive Council, obviously those are used to rubber stamp the process of making the party look national. But the reality, this is one person at some point who mentioned that he wants to be like Raila so that he can bargain for his own materialistic interests so that he can get his personal stakes within government. So whatever he's trying to create is a kiosk for bargaining. But I doubt if he's going to make it, because there are so many other leaders who will choose to be associated with something that is significantly progressive for the country, as opposed to myopic personal material interests of Gachagua.
All right.
So these are very short-term experiments. It is not going to be so much in terms of getting attention from Kenyans, because Kenyans had that advantage of knowing regarding Gachagua's bad character for the 2 years they occupied the position of deputy president. And they cannot risk to take up that kind of challenge. About the other leaders that are associating with him, I'm actually surprised that some leaders in the opposition embraced him. This is someone whose leadership opportunity had elapsed by 17th of October 2024 when the Senate impeached him. According to Article 150 of the Constitution, the finality on the impeachment of the deputy president is done by the Senate, if you read it together with Article 145 of the Constitution. So whatever he is going to seek after that is some kind of redress to support just the procedural nature of the situation.
Right. Well,
but in terms of associating with these other leaders, I condemn them, because they gave legitimacy to someone who had failed to lead the country in the second most powerful position.
Okay.
So whatever he's trying to do right now, after them giving him unnecessary legitimacy, he's going to give them a hard time.
All right.
Because he's someone who is selfish, self-centered, and at the point, if the Supreme Court will ever allow him, or if the courts will ever change the story about him in terms of impeachment and the consequences of impeachment of the 10 years, if the process is ruled as unconstitutional, he's obviously going to start declaring that he's running for president. Okay. That's what he's going to do. And then where will these other fellows be? They'll be nowhere. Okay. And he has been threatening, you remember, he goes to these vernacular radio stations. He sells the narrative of that region. He does not define anything else beyond ethnic organization of any institution.
Right.
He went to the Western ones, he said that he will front Aluya for president. He went to Ukambani, he said he's going to front Kalonzo for president. The other day, he was attending the Kisii one, and he said that they were not even given cabinet positions. When we know very well that at the time he was negotiating for the so-called shares, he never presented a name from any other region other than from the so-called Mount Kenya region. So this is someone who is not associated with anything called Kenyanism, nationalism, democracy, all those good names that are defined within our Constitution.
Okay.
All those things that are defined within Article 232 of the Constitution about values and principles of good governance.
Right, thank you.
It is not associated with them. Thank you.
Ondiek, karibu sana. He's the chair of Progress Plus Alliance. And formerly the UDA South Nyanza region coordinator. So you have definitely worked, hand in hand with former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Do you support what former talks about this particular, what he calls an experiment, that what he says is dead on arrival?
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting me, and I have to be sorry that I'm slightly late. There's so many things I was running after.
No worries.
But I also want to say that I might have been the coordinator of UDA in Nyanza, but I have never worked hand in hand with the former deputy president. First, I've not even greeted him. I want it to be known. I've never been even 4 meters close to him. At least I've greeted the president, but I've never greeted him because one, Gachagua is a very segregative man.
Okay.
We are people who, even if we found ourselves in UDA, we were seen as people who have come through Dr. Raymond Omolo. And if he believed that Dr. Raymond Omolo came into UDA through William Ruto. So those were people who he really didn't have much business with. I also want to tell you that I don't want to disparage the person of the former deputy president because he has been judged, he has been prosecuted, the matter has been properly ventilated upon by our parliament, and the final verdict was made by the Senate. And that might not be hitherto that very final, but the courts also have a determination, which maybe will determine as to whether the process was within the ambits of law or otherwise. But on my own behalf and on behalf of the people I represent, that is the members or the upcoming members of a young political party called Progress Plus Alliance, I denounced UDA because of very many reasons, Gachagua being one of them.
Okay.
William Ruto is the biggest mistake that ever happened to this country. Right. That he created a narrative which even attracted Gachagua and attracted many other, which made Gachagua even denounce Uhuru Kenyatta, and now he has gone begging for him. Simply because William Ruto has proved beyond doubt that is the biggest liar this country ever produced. And I don't have any apologies to make on that, because I can defend it by justification with examples which are more than 1,000, based on his own statements, including the one that he said that the country does not have abductions, only for him to later confirm that those who have been abducted have been returned to their families. If they were not abducted, then how have they been returned to their families? I come here with a heavy heart, my brother, even if I'm going to discuss this piece of party which is being discussed here. What is paining my heart as we speak is that his friend, now his enemy. Because for me, I didn't vote for William Ruto. I only went to support the government for one reason, and which I've explained in our vernacular televisions. I said, I want a democratic space in Nyanza, where I come from. And Raila Odinga and his cronies have ensured that there's only one political party in that region. And when my brother Raymond Omolo got opportunity to work with William Ruto, we found that that would be opportunity to open democratic space in Nyanza so that we could entrench UDA alongside ODM. But what has happened, the broad-based or bread-based government has interfered with the possibility of having another party. Therefore, I chose to continue with my struggle, and that is why I left William Ruto, because the democratic space we wanted to create has been hijacked by Raila Odinga and his friends in the broad-based government. Until now, they are ring-fencing that zone still to remain their zone. But that is not what brought me here. Okay. And that is what pains my heart. It's my joy because I've gone to create an opportunity which I started creating with PDP until he disrupted us and left ODM alone, and then we tried with UDA, now we'll do it with other very young parties we are putting up. But what is aching my heart is that their unity has now made our sugar industry to be hijacked. William Ruto and Raila Odinga have agreed now to sell our factories, which I believe that you are going to give me a few seconds to execute, but on the party.
Yes, on the party.
There's nothing that Gachagua can offer more than himself. And in fact, the best package that can be sold of Gachagua is the Kikuyu thing. Gachagua doesn't believe in anything beyond Mount Kenya. In fact, he doesn't even believe that there are even some other Kikuyus who are not staying in Mount Kenya. He doesn't even know that. In fact, the Kikuyus who are not in Mount Kenya are not supposed to be his subject, according to what he believes in. And I want to tell you that if Gachagua really wanted a country that he wants to govern, and then he talks about national something, what did he call it? Democratic what?
The democratic for citizen.
Which citizen?
And even as you also answer
which
that,
citizen? Because according to Gachagua...
just a minute, Ondiek. Just like, you also, left UDA and, are in a different party, a new party, for that matter. Even for, Rigathi Gachagua teaming up with some of his allies, having the Democracy for Citizens Party, every single electioneering period we see some of this, political formations coming up. And if this also goes to even for your, political party. What do you think of, the longevity of having these political parties that just, think of just the next election and not for a long term?
As I was coming in, I heard Fuamba talk about the need for unity. Let me tell you, the essence of a political party, even if you look at Political Parties Act, it talks about the sense of nationhood. It talks about togetherness as a country. It talks about the image of the country. It talks about the focus that should be made towards ensuring that our country is governed in a manner that is representative, equitable, and ensures that all the rights that are both alienable and of respect to people is given. Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya does provide for national values and principles of governance. One of them is national unity. Once we have a person who is convicted by both the media and the parliament that he's actually fostering a divided nation by ensuring that he has a particular zone that belongs to him, that one is not a person who understands even the coin that we have in Kenya. A coin should move from a Kikuyu to a Luo to a Kalenjin because a coin does not have a boundary. But a moment where you think about a coin that is of a specific region, then you are in yourself not having any value that is supposed to be respected and which is supposed to be supported. And therefore, this is not a party intending to galvanize a country, but is intending to do one thing, to divide the country into Mount Kenya and Western. And that's what Malala is there to represent Western region. And that's what the mess, even Natembea started very well, but he has decided to Sisi Waluya. Sisi Waluya. We cannot be talking about Sisi Waluya and then we still want to reorganize this country. As a country, we need a paradigm shift. We need a reorganization of our governance structure. We need an entrenchment of good behavior. If we entrench Article 10 in the Constitution that we gave unto ourselves, then our country will be properly governed. It's only about bad manners. Gachagua is is at the age of being the worst in terms of bad manners, because we could see how he acts. You see, it's not about being popular in a particular region, not having an idea which is popular. Sometimes it's always about you. About you.
Right.
I believe Kenyans will one day wake up to elect so that we don't pray that God to give us leaders. The ones which have been given to us by God maybe has failed us. Now we have to look at what we ourselves go to give ourselves at the ballot. I really pity that there are some Kenyans who will still go to the ballot and vote for this man. And it's terrible. Just like I pity those who will still go back to the ballot to vote for William Ruto.
Okay.
It's really terrible. I don't.
And speak of which, Fuamba, do you think that this party might pose any threat to UDA's stronghold grip?
As I mentioned earlier, the objective of this party is to give Gachagua a lifeline and other people who are struggling from UDA like Malala a lifeline to continue being present or continue appearing on this platform. They'll be coming here with some titles, party leader, they'll come with the deputy party leader, the positions they have missed. But as far as I'm concerned, by the time we get to 2027, the ball game will be totally different. We'll be going to election because that's when Waswahili wanasema they'll know mbivu na mbichi. That is the day of reckoning when we get to 2027. And in terms of alliances and collisions, parties will organize themselves on the basis of the interests of that time. Even in Mount Kenya itself, we'll have many figures who will be associating with maybe the president or running their own political affairs. Like I stated earlier, there are so many people who are more experienced than him. You look at somebody like Irungu Kangata. So far they are saying that he has performed well in Murang'a County and is someone who has never lost an election. And is someone who is very popular and has a good following. So you start from Murang'a, he can build his own brand. Waiguru is doing her second term. There is also Martha Karua. You think Martha Karua will follow Munyoro? Martha Karua will want to run on her own. Then there is also Deputy President Githure Kindiki, whom I'm seeing mobilizing all the places. Yesterday, I think he was meeting leaders from Nyandarua, 500, I think 500 or 5,000 of them. So all these engagements are going to translate into something for every politician. And I do not think if Gachagua is going to influence Wamunyoro, influence Madira, influence Nyeri at large, because even in Nyeri, there are more serious people like Mutai Kagwe who have good political experience. Right now they're in government, they are serving the purposes as cabinet ministers, but they carry more clout and more national credentials than this villager who was uplifted by William Ruto and put second position, and then discovered that it was too powerful. By virtue of having been deputy president, is the only reason as to why Gachagua wants to tell us that he can be somewhere at the national level. Who knew him, by the way? Before Ruto made him running mate. He wasn't known at the national level.
Okay.
So there's nothing that is so big here. Remember there was a time this Gachagua himself went on TV and said that people in government were not shouting so much about their achievements. He gave an example of a chicken laying an egg, that a chicken will make a lot of noise just by laying an egg, while a cash cow or a milk cow is usually very quiet and producing milk for so many other people. So I think he's living in that analogy himself. Having laid no egg at all, he's making a lot of noise. Then again, he goes ahead and says, Kisa Kenya. He talks a lot. He's not someone who listens. You cannot talk about someone who talks too much, and then at the same time he's telling us that he listens. Where in the records of him being in leadership has he demonstrated that he can be a listener? Nowhere.
All right.
Yeah.
Ndiak, your thoughts on particularly the Mbeere North factor. This particular place is where the former, AG, Attorney General Justin Muturi, is expected to, rally up support in this particular place. And in Mbeere North is also, a place where the now Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, is definitely well known. So it is going to be a litmus test for Gachagua in this particular place. What are your thoughts on, him bolstering his, how he's done in this particular place, and possibilities of even by-elections thereafter?
Yeah, of course, the by-elections are going to be it's going to be a very serious test for this new party. Just like I want to tell you that Kasipul constituency will be a serious test for our new party.
Okay.
Because we have to challenge the Odinga's candidate, because I know they are going to mess in the nominating the candidate as usual. And Mbeere North will be a very challenging point because, one, it will be a battleground. Obviously a battleground because that's where Ruku comes from, and Ruku has been made a minister, despite being it showed us that he's not able to perform in anything. In fact, he doesn't know what it entails, the ministry he has gone to, but still he was appointed there simply because the DP party leader, who is actually his party leader, was sacked from a ministry, and now they had to take care of him. But all said and done, personally, when I come on such platform, I really want to be very petty with people. Gachagua, obviously, because Kindiki is serving a government which is worse performing than a Gachagua, who is a tribalist. So the simple thing is that it will be a choice between the worst and the worst. I don't know how, something beyond the worst. English did not define a word for the beyond worst. But Gachagua's team, or Gachagua himself and his team, is worst. Now, William Ruto's is beyond being worst. So even if Kindiki will sing to the highest pitch of his non-soprano, there's nothing he can convince beyond the Mbeere people choosing between a devil and a better devil. And because they don't have any option, as we speak, they don't have any better option. I was only trying to fault Famba on a small thing. After having expressed even the leaders who he even thinks are supposed to even take over, he has really articulated them well. But you see, when we talk about corruption and you bring in the name of this governor for Kirinyaga, for example, as a leader who can be said where people are talking about, that's just a corrupt woman who I really don't think should even measure the test of coming forward to be even mentioned at the national platform. Unless Kenyans are only happy with the thieves. That is the only problem. So personally, I don't see any formation that can be very progressive and that we think can help Kenya, even in the name of Gachagua, because those people will act. Even this Matiang'i, I don't know whether Gachagua wants to run for president. He has really not showed it. But he cannot win presidency, obviously. He knows that he can't win.
Why not?
Because, no, Kenyans will look for why he was impeached. We will only tell him, come with your mountain. Then we see if the mountain can make him a president. Then, the reason why his party cannot help is because his party is built on his manifesto. Even Matiang'i, when he comes in, he will only come in if is going to be made a presidential candidate. But I'm very sure he's not coming in to deputize this Gachagua. Just like Martha Karua can only be there if she's being made a presidential candidate. But people like Martha Karua have no effect because she was a deputy president of Raila Odinga and she never even earned a position of MCA in the nearest polling station she comes from. So that is a valueless person who is just lying to the group. She goes with a big name only to bring nothing. In fact, the number of votes Martha Karua can bring, I can bring. So I'm telling you, I can even bring more because I know who I can talk to. People like Martha Karua have separated themselves from the masses. They have become too theoretical, too imaginable, and they have grown older than the necessity this country wants. But we are not able to entrust our future anymore with persons whose children are our fathers' age mates. It's beyond us.
Do you think former DP has had an impact when he has been in the opposition side and has met, opposition leaders compared to when he was in government? The kind of impact he has made in the opposition side.
I also once came on this platform and defended the government, like he served the government. I don't blame him for me leaving the government, getting to opposition. In fact, he did not leave the government. He was removed. At least I left. But now, the impact he has brought is simply to balkanize people around opposition so that they can fault the government, which he refused to fault when he was inside. So that's the only paradox we have here. But in totality, overall and generally, this party, I don't want to disparage it before even it's born. Let us give it time. Kenyan constitution is a very progressive constitution. Article 37 gives a freedom of everything, and then Article 38 provides for freedom of association. Let them do what they can. Malala is my friend, despite being whoever he is. He's a writer who I like in terms of whether I love Malala on his authorship because I'm also a writer. But politics, going to Wamunyoro and standing with him, I'm very sure Gachagua is not going to lead a team that is going to do something different from what he thinks. And that is the simple thing. If you are going with Gachagua, it means you are going to be purely tribalistic because he stands on a platform of Kikuyu community, and not only Kikuyu community, he stands on a platform of Mount Kenya. So if you are a Kikuyu who is in Mombasa, you are not in Mount Kenya. So if he looks for a road, he doesn't look for a road in Peketoni where other Kikuyus are doing agriculture. When he's looking for fighting against illicit brew, he did not go to Peketoni. I am just from Lamu, I'm from Mombasa. Now, there are Kikuyus doing agriculture in Peketoni. When will he represent them? If the roads must just go to Mount Kenya and the road which is coming from Lamu to Peketoni cannot be made, that one is being too regionalistic, too simplistic, and in fact, I like what he brought in. That these people are too simple to the extent that they don't know that there is sense of smell, sense of hearing, sense of everything. They have more than sense of 4 senses. Then they have only thought of the ears. Because that's where they want to bring in the nonsense into people's heads without telling them how to think. You see, we have to be more inclusive, more thoughtful. And like now, they are with Malala. They are only thinking of Luyas and Kikuyus. Where have they put the Luos?
All right. And tomorrow we'll just be taking a look at the whole list of the people here. So even as coming forward, what do you expect President William Ruto's reaction of this new outfit to be, the kind of move that he will make as the leader of the UDA?
I will want to pick up from where I left. First of all, I want to explain to my brother Ondiek here that I did not at any point vote for Waiguru. I only mentioned
as one of the leaders,
as one of possible people who can have their own clout in a certain way, whether corrupt or not. That I'm not best placed to judge. But then there's also Mbeere North, where I think is a point of interest.
Yes.
There's Dr. Murage Njagagwa, a very reputable guy who's likely to contest for that seat. And then Ruku. I was with Ruku and Murage at the University of Nairobi when we were doing our first degrees. and I see them as credible leaders. I tend to disagree with Ondieki because these are people I've interacted with. And then the other issue that I want to look at, what is this that I'm hearing that Justin Muturi wants to run for Member of Parliament? I heard the other time he was talking about wanting to be the President of the Republic of Kenya. Now you understand the greed in the whole of this team. They're looking for opportunities. These are people having sour grapes after having lost opportunity or positions. They're looking for any way. They're looking for just something to make them get an opportunity to be called Mheshimiwa or something, not to be called Waliobobea, not those ones. So now you're talking about President William Ruto. I think right now President Ruto's main agenda is to run the country. It's not supposed to be responding to side shows like Omunyoro's side shows. He cannot, I will be so much displeased to see if the president starts responding to the likes of Omunyoro.
What about his allies? We've had Deputy President Kindiki as well as a majority leader, that is Kimani Ichung'wah.
Since it's politics,
Gachagua.
Since it's politics and people are attacking each other, then they have a right to respond to the false allegations because this man is full of falsehoods. You know, he's like the head of propaganda in the country.
Okay.
This regard. Remember that time the other day he was threatening the president that the president knows me very well because he knows he's very good at packaging lies. You saw how he was in Nyeri and trying to look like he was fighting for President Uhuru Kenyatta. Hey, mtu asitukane our President Uhuru Kenyatta. We know the kind of tricks he's trying to play. He's trying to play to the gallery so that people think that he's Uhuru's defender.
Right. But then,
so I'll be so disappointed, and I do not expect the president to even pay attention to these sideshows. And for Malala, I saw Ndiek mentioning about Malala coming from Western. He's our brother from Western. He's our homeboy. And that is all. He does not necessarily represent anything to do with the Luhya interests. Whatever he's representing is the interests of Omunyoro, and they are presenting their interests because they know better the reason as to why they fell out from UDA and lost their positions.
Right.
So these are just people who are mourning for having lost big positions.
And then speak of interests, one thing that former DP has also mentioned time and again is that politics has no permanent friends and enemies, just to add on what you're saying. But then you mentioned, both of you, mentioning the Luhya unity as well as even the Kikuyu region, and to a particular group that said, even in last year's protest, they said that we are partyless, tribeless, the Gen Z. And gentlemen, now talking about the hunt for the Gen Z vote, both the UDA, even for Rigathi Gachagua and other political outfits who are eyeing the 2027 elections, different posts, they're definitely eyeing the Gen Z vote. And they, from what they know, the Gen Z say, we want things to be done in this particular manner. We want accountability. So Ondiek, talk to us about, even from Gachagua's political outfit, how you think he might intend to hunt for these particular votes, because this is a group that wants things done differently.
Yeah, I want to tell you that for the sake of the country, we really need to rethink our destiny, because once, I can take you back to a certain author, Chinua Achebe, in his book, A Man of the People. When he started to write, he says, Chief the Honorable M. Nanga was the most approachable politician in the country. And even if you go to his hometown, Anata, they will tell you he was a man of the people. He says that I have to say this from the onset, or else the story I'm going to make will make no sense. The truth is, he will not agree with the Chief Honorable M. Nanga, but he accepts certain attributes which has been praised and sung, like it was done of our daughter Adoyo Banda, whose praises were sung from here to Chumbukombet to everywhere. But now, Chinua Achebe goes on and says, never again must we entrust our destiny and the destiny of Africa for the Western class of educated and snobbish intellectuals who will not hesitate to sell their mothers into a mess of pottage. End of my quote. He says so because Chief the Honorable M. Nanga is one of the replica of Gachagua and his team. And that's why we are saying, when you talk about Gen Z vote, we have entrusted our destiny too long with the persons who don't even understand what this destiny they are entrusted with is. We have been in a prison, a country which is a prison, a country which is having people who are suffering, and the only thing we have been changing is the gatekeeper. We have only been changing the prison guard. Cost of living has not been a problem of today. Cost of living was even with Uhuru Kenyatta, but still Raila had a handshake with him. They had to run up to the end of his term. The problem of cost of living now emerged greatly when we were even going to suffer the next financial bill, which was of 2024. And the Gen Zs now came in only to correct the mess which we have refused to correct on the voting day. And now we end up with the persons who don't have our interest, and so they don't understand the destiny that we have as a country. If we really want to have a country which is really entrenched into the destiny, which is the aspiration of Kenyans, then it's a country that should be run by the rule of law, must be run by constitutionalism, and must be run by good manners. But these manners have so badly been damaged to the extent that even as we go to a vote, we don't know whether we are going to elect a leader or we are going to elect these kind of people we have. I want to bring you first that President William Ruto must obviously be worried. By the way, we have a president who cannot sit pretty in State House because he's worried that he has performed so poorly that he must run on top of the vehicles every week to inform the people that is really working. You really don't have to inform the people that you're really working. This show which we are watching today, I don't have to even share links for people to watch it so much, because I believe at a particular time a clip will go and they will be looking for where that clip was said. Like the clip I'm about to say like this. William Ruto must be worried about even you when you start a political party. It doesn't matter the credentials you carry along. It doesn't matter the region you command. He is worried about everyone because he has performed so poorly that any person can win. Doesn't matter who he is. Now they are all looking for the vote of the Gen Zs. It's not about the Gen Zs. And I want to say Gen Zs is just but a group of young people who have decided to have a paradigm shift to develop this country towards the direction that is going to protect their future, rather than entrust that future with the people who don't have a future. Like, for example, if we still have our region entrusting our future with Raila Odinga, who is 86, I don't know. His real age might be 86 and above. I don't know the exact age, but they say it's 82, but it might be more than that.
Yeah.
We want to entrust our destiny with a person who has been a DO, has been everything, capable of administering and bringing changes and becoming deputy president. We want to entrust our destiny with Martha Karua, who has been minister for everything in this country. Kalonzo Musyoka, who has been everything. Eugene Wamalwa, who has been everything, only to perform nothing. William Ruto, who has now failed us, obviously, as a president. That is now why there is a great change in mind. People are saying, we don't have option with Gachagua, we don't have option with William Ruto. We only have an option with a future that can be governed by young generation. And that's why they are talking about Gen Z vote. They want Gen Z vote to go to Gachagua, they want Gen Z vote to go to William Ruto. They are not looking forward to having a Gen Z vote going to a Gen Z. That is why we are saying, if these persons above 50 have failed as they have done, they don't have our future's interest at hand, why can't we then go for a young person who still has a future, so that if he spoils this country, then he's also spoiled. But you want to entrust with the people whose futures are already finished, there's no more thought in them. An old dog never learns a new style. And we cannot force them to run. So let us look for young Fuamba, who is capable of steering this country to the future. Yes. Young Ondiek Kennedy, who is capable of taking this country. And that's why when you saw me brought together, when we sat together with Kasmil Makoure, sat with Morara Kebaso, Arnold Maliba, we sat together with John Nene, yes. We saw Fanyamambo Kaona, all of them sent so many bloggers to attack these two young men. At Makoure is a traitor. Kebaso is a traitor. Can Kebaso be more of a traitor than Gachagua? Can Makoure be more of a traitor than Raila, who opposed Uhuru only to join him, who opposed Ruto only to join him, and only hire his family members? Can he be worse than them? And still they praise Raila Odinga simply because they claim better the devil. Why do you praise the devil? Why do you say better the devil when an angel is hanging around you and you are busy abusing that angel and asking for where that angel has come from? I want to bring revolution in our region, and they still believe that unless you are Raila Odinga, you can't go and talk in Kisumu and be listened to. Why can't we? This is the fear that William Ruto must have, and he has it. That's why he cannot sit in State House to do his job, because he has to go and do the job of campaigning.
Okay. Fomba, even as you come in, the party slogan is Kazi na Haki, speaking about work and justice. And for the Gen Zs, these are two words that really mean a lot. Yes. When you talk about Kazi, the rate of unemployment in the country is very high. Justice even at this particular point, even at this particular bulletin, airing news about young people who were abducted, in last year's, protests, these are two words that are really, meaningful to them. And the question would be, for this Gen Zs, wouldn't it be better for them to, front their own person who, as Ondiek says, have their own leader who has the qualities that they are looking for, instead of someone who is not in touch with them?
I strongly support and believe in the emergence of young leadership. But one thing I've always known, and I think Fidel Castro mentioned it, age can never be an ideology, because you can be young today and you'll be 90 years to come. What matters most is the mindset and the determination and the software that runs your mind. If you are development-oriented, if you are a person who is cultured well in terms of management of your own character, then you can be good for leadership at whatever age. And that's why I think these young people can easily work with all other people. You cannot segregate yourself and say you are supposed to have this position because of your age. Mm-hmm. Because even if you are 20, you are going to be 90 at some point. You can be 20 and corrupt. You can be 80 and be an honest person. Something else that I'd like to point out is William Ruto. I do not want to look like I'm supporting him, but let me be the devil's advocate.
Okay.
All of us know that COVID-19 affected supply chain systems all over the world.
Right.
And so many countries are struggling with their economies. For me, I think he has tried a lot. What is the price of fuel today as we speak? Mm-hmm. It's below 170, I think. Petrol is below 170. By the time we were going to elections, the price was extremely high, and it had been subsidized. So one of very interesting ideas the president brought on board was subsidizing production as opposed to subsidizing consumption. He has put in place several policies that I think will work. It's a very difficult environment. And being in the opposition is the easiest job, because your duty is just to criticize, to say so-and-so has not done this, so-and-so has not done this. Mm-hmm. But the moment you are supposed to be working, you need to have a well-organized system of working. And like I mentioned earlier, there are international standards of what you are supposed to do. For example, the United Nations put in place the SDGs. Here ourselves, we put together Vision 2030. So you cannot just come from nowhere and say, nasikiza wa Kenya kufanya nini? So I strongly believe that the president, if he organizes himself well, I see he has a very good team. Like he mentioned, somebody like P.S. Raymond Omolo is cool, organized.
Do you think President William Ruto is listening to Kenyans?
Kenyans is a collective word. Every individual must be having a personal opinion. And those opinions are usually expressed at the ballot. So for us to know whether he's been listening to Kenyans or whether he's doing what Kenyans expect, we'll know in 2027. And right now, he's just done, 2.5 years? Uhuru did 10 years. Kibaki did 10 years. 10 years. So why are we judging him when he has not even finished the first 5 years? The day of judgment is on the day of balloting.
But shouldn't it
he has made a few things, you see, affordable housing.
Should it be a continuous process of judging where person A voted him for his ideologies at that time, but then 3 months later, this person does not see the list of things that President William Ruto said he will do. Oh. This person sees that, well, this has not been done and I am changing my mind. Should it be a continuous process of judging, or
of course, Kenyans generally are very ambitious people, both in politics and even among the citizens. Personally, I did not vote for President William Ruto.
Okay.
I was convinced that Raila was the right choice at that time. So I followed Raila Odinga. Those were about 7 million other people who supported that arrangement. Mm-hmm. The other people like Ondieki were with President William Ruto, another 7 million.
No, I voted for Raila.
You voted for Raila. Now, Raila that we supported, and we were so much vicious against William Ruto, we were holding microphones, insulting, abusing William Ruto all over in the name of supporting Raila. Now Raila is in government, is with the Ruto.
Okay.
They were working together. So,
and in that spirit of working together, gentlemen, I think we have about 5 minutes to wrap it up. So I want us to touch on this. You had brought it up, whole broad-based, and because before the broad-based government, a number of people had not seen this, this partnership between former Prime Minister Raila Odinga as well as President William Ruto. Moving forward, Ondieki, do you see any possibility of former DP Rigathi Gachagua ever working together with President William Ruto? He himself has said that there are no permanent friends. It's always about just interests. Do you see any possibility of them working together?
One, when you have thieves, thieves will always be thieves. Just like they say men will always be men. And they say life begins at 40. And men will remain men. What I can tell you is that William Ruto is a president who has, despite the challenges Fuamba may say, has proved to be incapable of driving any agenda from point A to point B. When you are a president who is in charge of even how a pen is being purchased, then you are not a president. You are a procurement officer. When you are a president who is on the trail of campaign on every week, yet you have 2.5 years still to perform, then you are supposed to be working as a chief campaigner of the next president and not the president. Because Fuamba will not convince me that the president should be given opportunity to be judged when he's the one who has left the state house where he should serve and is hanging on the roads like if as a minister, telling people what to be done. If the policy has been made by the government, it is not the duty of the president to run discussing those policies or tell us the roads are being done. Kenyans are disappointed. I am disappointed. You are disappointed. And I know, despite the shortage of time, allow me rebuke this. President William Ruto's intention, and I'm coming from a sugar belt region, and Fuamba must say this, even if he wants us to give him time to work. The president must stop this his intention of privatizing or leasing our sugar industries. It was tried, it failed. Now he has gone to fire and sack all the boards of those. He wants to insert people who are going to make him win with the lease so that they can have a deal. He has already pushed Kenya, forced Kenyans' hands into having an IBC which he wants. Now he's pushing Kenyans' hands to have the managing directors and the boards of the sugar companies which are going to accept lease. As the people in the region of sugar, we are rejecting the lease 100%, and we are going to go to court, even to the apex court, to tell President William Ruto that you will not interfere with our livelihood. Sugarcane is what we live on. Sugarcane is our school fees. Sugarcane is everything. And when you lease it to Waindi, who are your friends, we are not going to accept, and we are going to come to your door, even if it is knocking at the State House. We will refuse.
Thank you. I'll take that as your last one.
In 2003, President Mwai Kibaki.
In response to that possible partnership, and then your last thoughts, then we wrap it up.
Yeah, I will start with, in 2003, Kenyans were very optimistic and they voted for Kibaki overwhelmingly. But Kibaki believed in working and producing results. All the time, I was in Kibaki campaigns by the time we got to 2007. Kibaki kept on saying that, watu wataona kazi, kura ni siku moja. What happened? People were almost rejecting Mwai Kibaki. They were not voting for him on the basis of the record because at that time, ODM had spread propaganda all over the country against Mwai Kibaki, and it was so toxic. And that's why, in political terms, it is right for the president to go and explain his part of the story, because these jilted fellows are spreading a very toxic message led by Gachagua. Gachagua is not talking about anything that is progressive for this country. He's spewing hatred and venom from one corner to the other.
No, what is the president doing that he needs to tell us?
He has gone to explain.
Does he need to come and still tell us
because for political interests, he may not want. He may also not want to make the Kibaki mistakes.
Right.
So by the time he gets to 2027,
answer me this then. Yes. Do you think the two, President William Ruto as well as former DP, might ever have a partnership later on in future?
I can for certain not say, but it will be extremely disappointing for them to create another toxic partnership like the one we had. Like those of us who are as Mio, for example. Whenever this guy used to go on TV or address in media, he kept on saying there are people who have a lot of shares, others have little, wengine hawana.
Right.
There was a time we went to Bungoma and said that people from Bungoma should not get any opportunities. The other day he was on TV or radio trying to say that jobs are available.
But even if you go to William Ruto, just 1 second.
Yes.
Even if you go to the parastatals today, you know, Ruto might say that he's not tribal. But if you go to parastatals, 65% are Kalenjins. Right. And you need to check the list. So when the parastatals, which are the key operatives of the government, is headed by a tribe, and then you come and say Gachagua is, by the way, let me tell you simple. Both Gachagua and Ruto's team are not useful for this country. Let us have a new reinvention of our future. That is when we can succeed as a country.
Gentlemen, we really have to close it right here. Gachagua's new political outfit going to be unveiled tomorrow. He said that he was to actually launch this back in March, but then due to security reasons, he had to hold it, and we're going to be giving you this live updates tomorrow when he does this at this particular place along Levington Road. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Fomba, NC Fomba is a chairman, National Alternative Leadership Forum, governance analyst as well, and Kennedy Ondiek, chair, Progress Plus Alliance chairman. And you, particularly viewer, for tuning in from 9 p.m. all the way until now. Thank you very much. Rhoda Nyamai has been on the Sign Language docket. I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyerungita. Have yourself a wonderful Wednesday evening.